Good afternoon. Chris Wallace here, advisor to man. I want to talk to you about intuition, because it's a funny thing. And it's funny how this works, because a kid arrives in the world intact, and then shit happens. You're first chosen for existence by a universe of infinite wisdom, and you're handed off to others, adults, siblings, teachers, operating in an environment of unique challenges and circumstances. At birth, you have an inborn temperament, and that's evident in contrast to the other new arrivals around you. We know this. And you're filled with promise, aren't you? Much of that would derive from the collective unconscious, mankind's instinctual life manifestations. Fear of the dark, fear of heights, a drive to live and die, a capacity to learn language, and eventually to think abstractly. These are all part of mankind's collective unconscious, our shared mythologies. And a smaller part of you stems from your ancestral record, especially the epigenetic influences on your ancestral DNA, passed along to you through the methyl groups. And these are the keys which switch the expression of your genes on and off. Over the time of your early growth, the brain becomes more predictive based on interoceptive messaging from the body. It has, at first, very little history to add to your simple feelings repertoire, but as time goes by and you live, so does the diversity of your feelings increase along with it. We can take those 130 odd words and summarize it into one for the sake of brevity. Soul. Consider it expedient rather than woo. It's this soul which carries your potential and your possibilities. Whatever unique and instinctual gifts you possess will be grown or destroyed in and among the environment and the people around you. That speaks to the part of consciousness that operates in response to what is outside of the body-mind. We've never found consciousness, its existence in the brain. We can guess at it. The best we can do is see consciousness as a bridge between the internal and the external parts of our world. Your consciousness experience exists not just inside you, but in human society and culture at large. The child has to bridge this chasm between their own egocentricity and what is outside of themselves by foregoing his innocence and forming an alliance with those around him, upon whom he relies for nurturing, sustenance, protection, and shelter. So he creates a conforming ego, a separate entity from his true self. He constructs it from neurons and emotion under the threat of abandonment and shame. In most right-handed kids, it'll reside in the left brain and in time command his language, his logic, and his pattern recognition. And that's reversed for lefties. It's his rationalizer. It's his interpreter. And it's the source of all his pain. His most evident discontents reside in this hemisphere of precision and communication as he negotiates the tightrope between himself and what others expect of him. He contributes as his sole influence on his potentials and possibilities, on his gifts. Whereas the left brain conforming ego carries the voices of the whole tribe in its midst. It can become tyrannical, can't it? Its bullying language is found in auxiliary verbs like should, would, could, must, and doubting him with questions like what if and if only. You give a child boxes from the recycling at 6 years old, and they may become armor from which he protects himself from beasts like the family dog, for example. Do that to a 12-year-old kid and they're just recycling, perhaps part of his chores, but nothing of pleasure. By puberty, all vestiges of the true self are buried beneath the conforming ego. The left brain is highly folded and connected within itself, whereas the right is less folded but connected to more places in the brain and body. It's the intuitive side, and it recognizes language, but it doesn't express itself that way. Instead, it uses emotion and flashes of insight. It shows up in your dreams or when you're taking a shower or going for a walk, and it speaks for the soul through your spirit. The left brain uses judgment of self of others and of circumstances, and it operates primarily for survival. Its goal is to keep you alive long enough for you to procreate. It's fear-based and safety conscious. These are important, but it's not interested in you manifesting your gifts. Not at all. In fact, your potentials and possibilities reside outside the left brain construct, period. And how do I know this? Well, because it's an afterbuild. It's not part of your original software. You took this on. You made it up. Sure, you need it, but not enough to let it rule you. Speaking of rules, this is one I find that really helps people. It's an either-or question, and it keeps things simple. It's this: joy or judgment? Ask yourself, am I feeling joy or am I feeling judgment? If I'm not feeling joy, I'm in judgment. Count on it. And judgment sucks. It prevents you from seeing the awe in yourself and in others and in circumstances. It means I'm hard on myself, and then I use that harshness to be hard on others. It pushes them away. I'm my own worst critic, it says. Or I'm harder on myself than anyone else, says the person as they fire off another cutting put down of the people around them. Eventually, some of those people leave. And I say bullshit in return. Judgment leaves you dissatisfied and looking for things to improve one day. It says, when this happens or that happens, then I'll be happy. Bullshit again, I dare say. And I ask you, well, what if that day never comes? What if we get to be 90 years old and realize the dirty trick that we just played on ourselves? What if we figure out that we didn't just live the last 10 or 20 or 30 years, but lived a version of 1 year, 10 or 20 or 30 times? What then? You might hear your left brain right now saying, well, feeling joy each day is unrealistic. You fucking kidding me? So 150,000, look it up, 150,000 people died yesterday in the world. And yet I'm talking to you now and you're listening, you're watching. No joy? We don't feel joy? I say smarten up with as much love as I can. Happiness is a decision. It's also a decision kicked into gear by your higher true self. Listen, it was Einstein who once said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is its faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. There you have it. The gift is joy. Its power is in seeing the silver lining in everything. Every problem has a gift to it. It's allowing the grandeur of our true self to grow and become while offloading our potential. Is there anything more masculine than that? I ask you, how will you see the joy in every moment of your day? Can you catch the judgment and switch? I bet you can. I know you can. What do you say? Leave me comments if you feel up to it. I'd appreciate your feedback. Just remember, stay powerful. Never give up. Chris Wallace, Advisor to Men. And by the way, in case you didn't know, the latest integration course is now out. I did the first one on shame. You can find it at services.advisortomen.com. And I think that first one's kind of important. And why did I do it about shame? It's just because it helps men rid themselves of shame and abandonment fear, something which is loaded up in that left brain as a kid and stifles your intuition. It makes sure you aren't easily triggered by the past while living in the present. I think that's kind of important. That's critical for us all. And if you use the coupon code EARLYBIRD at checkout, you'll get $30 off the $99 price. So there's a limited number of these, so judge yourself accordingly and use it soon. And as always, don't hesitate to schedule a free call with me to see if there's a way that we can work together. I just want to remind you once more, Chris Wallace, advisor to men, stay powerful, never give up, and remember, this is the day. Go with joy.